Okay, we've got a lot of callers that are lining up, but give us the 101 on why Goldman why Goldman has a civil action against them.
Because they issued bonds to customers who bought them. They then shorted the bonds, bet they were going to go down by betting with other dealers in the marketplace. At the same time, their buddy over at another hedge fund called Paulson was doing the same thing. They made hundreds of billions of dollars by playing both sides of the market at the same time when their clients who bought these bonds thought they were good because they were told that they were. When in fact they weren't. They were designed to fail.
Yeah.
So that these people at Goldman and at Paulson could make a fortune. It's, they say, well, it might be unethical, but it's not criminal. Of course it's criminal.
Yes.
I spent 28 years on Wall Street. I had every license that you can get. I owned my own firm for many years. And I know what the game is. And I know what they did. And I know it's criminal.
And it's because the public doesn't understand what's going on that we say, oh, well, it's just a small group of people over there. They don't understand what's happening. Let me go to Willie in Pennsylvania. Willie, you're on the air. Go ahead, please. You're on with Bob Chapman.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi there.
Is it okay if I make a comment about the oil well fires?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Back in I think it was Operation Just Because or something like that, I used to listen to a popular radio station in San Francisco overnight, and during the news reports, for at least 3 reports within an hour, they made a report that the United States had accidentally bombed a British submarine, and there was a massive oil leak in the Gulf. The next morning, and from then on, all the news reports stated that Saddam Hussein had released oil into the Gulf.
Oh, I remember that. Operation Just Cause, I think is what that was.
Yeah, I called it Just Because.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay, well, that came to mind when you were talking about us setting the fires on.
Thank you.
I believe that we did.
I believe we did, too. And the implications of that are huge. Okay, any question or comment for Bob Chapman?
No, but I do have one other comment about something that was stated on that station, too, that changed.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me go to the callers that want to talk to Bob Chapman, because we'll do that at a different time. Thank you so much, Willie. I appreciate the phone call. Let's go to Joe in Arkansas. Joe, you're on the air, the author of the books we were just talking about, Raw Foodist Propaganda and the Renewing Your Life Force. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much for that plug, Joyce.
Uh-huh.
And, Mr. Chapman, what I wanted to ask you is, I heard you say on another radio show, in Ian Fletcher's book, Why Free Trade Doesn't Work, he advocates what he calls a natural strategic tariff, about 25 to 35% on everything that's imported into the country, and I thought he made a pretty good case for that. And I heard you say on another show that you thought it would be better to have selective tariffs on certain items but not on other items. And I understand that one of the main causes of the Civil War was that they had selective tariffs on, that the northern manufacturers were protected but the southern, farmers were not. And there was a lot of resentment over that. So I just wanted to ask you why you advocate selective tariffs instead of, a tariff on everything.
I think the main reason is that there is how would I put it? The most grievous cost of jobs in America have been things that are manufactured outside the United States that once were manufactured within the United States. If you put a blanket tariff on everything, you're penalizing countries that have always played by the rules, and there are some that do, although I will say 75 or 80% don't. And I think you should pinpoint things like automobile parts, the automobile industry, and all of those kinds of things immediately. And if you do that, you're going to start getting everybody's attention, and they'll start backing off, and they'll stop putting tariffs on goods that go into their country from our country. But, no matter which way you do it, I don't think it's super important. What's important that we have tariffs, period.
Okay. Anything else, Joe?
Now, in one of the best economics books I ever read, Unforgiven by Charles Walters Jr., he advocated a policy that he called equity of trade, which sounds to me like about the best idea on these tariffs that I've ever heard. And that's that the tariff would go to an account for the country that we imported the stuff from, and then that country would be able to use that money collected in the tariff to buy stuff from the United States. So that would stimulate, our exports also and, create jobs, create production in this country. And that seems to me a very good idea. So anyway, I'd like to ask Mr. Chapman to consider that one.
Well, I think that'd be a good idea. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just like having a bank and saying, well, you sold us $2 million worth and we sold you $3 million, and you've got $1 million in there, and so we'll have to buy some more stuff from you. That's very good.
All right. Thank you very much for the phone call. Let's go to, thank you, Joe, and look forward to having you on the show with your new book, too. Steve in Illinois. Steve, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, real quick. Joyce, earlier you was talking about that pornography and everything that he's doing. Please don't swallow that hook, line, and sinker. They were doing that probably, but it was induced upon them, so it would look like what you were saying. No wonder they couldn't catch Madoff. That's what they want you to think, so it kind of passes the buck. Mr. Chapman, I've been doing this for going on 31 years since Reagan come in, and two things really made me take note, and I knew at the end of 30 years it's going to be a conspiracy that is going to get these pensions and everything, but he had deregulation or self-regulation, and he was going to move it with taxpayer incentive jobs offshore. And I thought, this is an absolute disaster, and that's what it's turned out to be. Now, I have to ask you, how much more do we have to sit and listen and think and know? This government is outlaw. It's absolutely corrupted. And they come in and let these businesses come in and make the rules for themselves and self-regulate and everything, taking completely democracy away from this country and just left it for the robber barons. It's time people, we've heard, I don't know how much more people need to hear. I'm glad you're there to do it, and Joyce and everything. But by golly, we need to get to these local offices of our representatives that not harm or anything, but let them know that, hey, this is done, and either have a strike for a week or 2 days or whatever, and just go to every local office, because all politics are local, like Tip O'Neill said, and let them know that, hey, this is enough already. This can't go on any longer. To keep finding out these things and be advised of everything is fine, but I saw enough 30 years ago, but by golly, people, even the dumbest, unsophisticated person should have seen at least 10 years ago that this can't go on. And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks very kindly.
Thank you very much for the phone call, Steve. Your response, Bob?
Well, first of all, he's absolutely right. And the people got to listen to the Power Hour and programs like that. And they have to start visiting.
What do we do? What do we say?
Well, exactly what he said. All politics are local. Incidentally, I knew Tip O'Neill when I was a little kid. And I just thought I'd drop that in there. But anyway, he lived in Cambridge, and I lived in Somerville next door, and his nephew was my best friend. That's how I knew him. Huh. But anyway, he's right. You've got to go in, and you've got to replace the people in the city councils and the mayors and all the way up the chain within the state. And if you can control the state structures, you can push the solvent issues. You might even have a state bank. And there's all sorts of possibilities, but that's a good place to start. And, of course, in the next election, vote everybody out except Ron Paul.
Yeah. Easier said than done with the corrupt voting systems that we have. 50 minutes after the hour, we'll be back. This is Joyce Riley and Bob Chapman. We'll take your phone calls, 800-259-9231. Back in 3.